I've figured out a few things. Finally convinced the people down here that I wasn't a threat, and I wanted to try to get us out. There's a worker down here who has been stuck for a while. The last she remembers is February of 2002, and it's currently August of 2007. This poor girl. She said the creature that has pulled us down here hasn't harmed any of them, but it refuses to let them leave. It's a creature that she didn't even know existed until this all happened for the first time, 5.5 years ago. She said there was one option for escaping, but no one's ever been able to hold their breath long enough. They usually return winded, and one person even died. So, all we have to do is swim through this channel right here and it exits out on the other side of the park? She nodded. But it's about a mile swim, and if that creature finds out you're missing, she goes after you, the old worker replied. Wait, is she? My boyfriend cut in. How do you know it's a she? The worker shrugged and never replied, silence looming in the air. Okay, so what if we had some makeshift scuba gear where we could breathe a little bit longer? I offered. That might work, but what? We've been down here for years, so you say, and nothing has worked. I know I'm in no shape to try to swim anyway. I can barely walk across the little ledge. Her brown eyes darkened as she finished that last part, looking down at her frail body from the last few years of barely being able to eat scraps from whatever raw meat that creature had brought in and not finished. Don't worry, I'll get us out of here, I said, doing my best to assure her. She offered a faint smile that vanished quickly. My name is Georgiana, but you can call me G, she said softly. That's Hector. Her hand pointed at a young man in the corner, bright red curls covering his eyes as he sat in silence. I don't think I'd seen him move since we got here. That's Cameron. Her hand moved to a middle-aged woman who waved as I looked over, dark tanned skin with beautiful brown hair complementing her features, despite the mud caked through it. The bag I'd fawned over that morning was resting in her lap, which she held tightly. The rest of the people shied away from any form of contact, and I assumed they just wanted to be left alone. I'm Francine, and this is Alan. I motioned to myself and my boyfriend. I got a small smile from Cameron, but Hector remained still, hidden from the world behind his curly hair that was so matted, I didn't think he could even move it if he wanted to. My bag dangled from a single strap as I pulled it off my back, barely hanging on, and I silently prayed as I realized this might be the only hope we had. I laughed softly, pulling out Alan's nebulizer, that stupid little plastic mask that never seemed to work right. The entire machine had quit on him earlier that morning, and we struggled to breathe for a few minutes. We thought we were gonna have to delay the trip, but he was able to calm himself, and after about an hour, he was able to breathe again. He was starting to wheeze once more. I glanced at him. I'll be fine, he assured me, breathing in as deep as he could, trying his best to get his lungs to start working properly. No time for this. I shook my head and sighed. I took apart the face piece and went to work taping all the holes in it, except the main hole that the nebulizer is supposed to sit in. His wheezing started to calm down, and I sighed softly, putting a little more thought into just how I was going to contain oxygen. Perhaps... Anyone have any balloons? I held my breath, hopefully, but not too hopeful. Hector flinched slightly, drawing my gaze over to him. Hector? After a long moment, he reached for his bag, a dark brown backpack that had a bright pink label that read, Charlotte. I frowned. Was it a girlfriend? Nothing to worry about now. I pulled myself back to what I was doing once again. Hector pulled out a couple balloons, unused, and handed them over to me, all bright pink with what seemed to be words written on them. I frowned slightly, beginning to grasp why he might be so quiet, and I did my best to find one that wasn't written on. I managed to find one and start blowing into it, making it as large as I could without it popping, and fitting it over the hole of the nebulizer, while maintaining my fingers around the neck, pinched, and I handed it to Alan. It seemed like it was going to work. A half grin slipped across my face until I looked up, seeing G's frown. I don't think that's gonna work. She shook her head. No, that's no good, she huffed, crossing her arms. It'll be all right. I'll do my best to get across and get out of the other side. Once I do, I'll go for help and we'll make sure we get everyone out of here, Alan said, and started to put the piece over his mouth and nose. No! G suddenly yelled. Everyone shot their gaze towards her. Even Hector, who had not showed a single emotion, looked startled, his hair barely falling down out of the way of deep green eyes. No, don't you get it? We can't escape. No one can escape. We're all stuck down here. We're never getting out. G started slamming her hands on the rock beneath her, bones crunching and blood starting to surface from small scratches making their way onto her hands. Cameron jumped over to her and gently grabbed her hands, wrapping the woman in a hug and holding her still, shushing her like a mother to a child. G started crying softly, leaning into Cameron, who seemed to gladly hold her. I gotta go, Alan muttered, and I nodded. I got this. Don't look so worried, babe. I rolled my eyes slightly. I know you can. I'm still worried, but I know you got this. You can do this. I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes, and I could tell he could see it. I'll be back as soon as I can, I promise. Just hold off the creature until I'm back, yeah? I nodded, and off Alan went, crawling into the small hole filled with water at the opposite end of the cave that we had entered.